Ever wondered why you automatically reach for a cup of coffee as soon as you wake up? Or why you get irritated when someone cuts you off in traffic? This is the power of conditioning in action. It's an invisible force that shapes our behaviors in ways we might not even realize. Now, you've probably heard of Pavlov's dogs, the famed experiment where a bell's ring made dogs salivate even if there was no food in sight. This is classical conditioning, where a neutral stimulus, in this case the bell, becomes associated with an unconditioned stimulus, the food. This concept isn't restricted to a laboratory. It's happening in our daily lives. The alarm clock that sends you staggering towards the kitchen, the rude driver that has you seeing red. These are all examples of conditioned responses. Imagine how many of our daily actions are influenced by this conditioning, some of which may not be supporting our long-term goals. What if we could recondition ourselves for a more positive outcome? Ever heard of Pavlov's dogs? Well, these pups were not just ordinary dogs, they taught us a valuable lesson about conditioning. Now, let's take a step back and delve into the story of these famous dogs. The Russian scientist Pavlov noticed that dogs naturally salivated when they saw food. This was nothing out of the ordinary. But then, Pavlov started ringing a bell each time he presented the food. Over time, the dogs began to associate the bell with their mealtime. The result? They started salivating merely at the sound of the bell, even when there was no food in sight. This behavior is what we call a conditioned response. It's the formation of a new association, linking a neutral stimulus, the bell, with an unconditioned stimulus, the food. The fascinating part is that this isn't just a canine phenomenon. Just like Pavlov's dogs, we too have been conditioned to react to certain stimuli in our environment, forming associations that shape our behavior. So, conditioned as we are, how can we use this understanding to our advantage? Can we recondition ourselves for more beneficial outcomes? Imagine being able to tweak your own responses just like Pavlov did with his dogs. Let's say you have a habit of reaching for unhealthy snacks when you're stressed. What if instead you conditioned yourself to reach for a glass of water or take a few deep breaths? Or consider your reaction to traffic. We've all felt the frustration of being cut off. But what if, instead of reacting with rage, you conditioned yourself to see it as a reminder to practice patience? And how about your morning routine? Does it set you up for a successful day? Could you recondition yourself to start the day with a more positive activity, like exercise or meditation? Take a moment to consider where in your life you could introduce more positivity. Remember, just like Pavlov's dogs, we too can learn new associations. So why not use this understanding to shape our behavior in a more positive direction?